Hey guys, so I am going to show you kind of sort of how I would do a direct instruction model on one of my lesson plans that I created. I'm a little bit limited, which is why I did it on a PowerPoint. Usually I would have all my manipulatives like base 10 blocks and stuff, but with school starting on Monday, we only had a little bit of time to get our rooms ready and wasn't able to really have my manipulatives available for this presentation. So I will kind of give you guys a brief overview. So phase one of this model is the orientation. And during this phase, the teacher's expectations are communicated, the learning task is clarified, and student accountability is established. So in this phase, generally I would basically, students would be done with their do nows. So at that point, they're transitioning into their math journals, and I will start by reading the objective of the day. And in this case, the objective is I can represent the value of a whole number and decimal to the hundredths in expanded notation in decimal and fraction forms. This isn't the first objective of the unit, so I would just go over the important vocab for the unit, which in this case is decimals, which here's an example. Here's 56 hundredths. Decimal point, which is this little red point. And the two very important vocabulary words for this unit is going to be tenth, and here is 1/10, and then hundredth, and this is 100th. So with my base 10 blocks, I would show them a long, which would have 10 units, and I would show them a hundredth, which is one of these small units. And I would also show them a flat, which is this entire grid here, and show them that one flat, which is one whole, has 100 of these little units and has 10 of these long rods. Hence their name, tenths and hundredths. Phase 2 is the presentation. I will be explaining the new concept or skill and providing demonstrations and examples. So my teacher model would be this problem right here. The most expensive bicycle in 2018 was the Trek Butterfly Madone. The bicycle costed $504,925.35. How can we use expanded notation to represent the value of the digits in this number? So this is an example of a place value chart that my kiddos would have. Now obviously it would go up to 1 billion because fourth graders learn numbers up to 1 billion. And so what I would do is I would have this blown up on an anchor chart paper, and I would use sticky notes to place these numbers, the $504,925.35, into the place value chart. And I would let them know that this 5 is in the hundredths place, so it would go here. Next would be the 3, and it is in the tenths place, so I would place it here. Here's my decimal point, and at this point they've already learned and established place value understandings, so they know that this 5 would be in the ones place, 2 would be in the tens, 9 would be in the hundreds, 4 would be in the thousands, 0 would be in the 10,000s, and 5 would be in the 100,000s. So then we would have our numbers in their place values. Would go into expressing the number in expanded notation, and I would reiterate that because we read left to right, we will start with the number that is furthest to the left, and here it would be the 5 in the 100,000s place. So I would write a 5, I would write the digit 5, and I would also let them know that when writing in expanded notation, you are taking the digit and multiplying it by its place value. So I would have the digit 5 times its place value, which is 100. 100,000. And I would also let them know that I have a 0, so I can include it in the expanded notation if I want to, but it's not necessary. So we are just going to skip it and move on to the next digit, which is the 4, and it is in the thousands place. So I'll take my digit 4, multiply it by its place value, which is 4 times 1,000. And I would go on and on until what I really want to emphasize is the decimal place values. So here I would have 3 times 1/10. And I can write it in 2 ways. I can write it in decimal form, which would be decimal 10, or fraction form, which would be 1/10. Then I would go on to the next digit, which is the 5 in the hundredths place. And same thing, I will multiply by its place value, which is 5 times 100th, which can be decimal 0.1 or 1/100. Base 3 is the structured practice. So it's kind of like the kids work in groups, or I can take the lead and ask them, check for understanding questions. So I would have this number written on the board, and I would ask them to write it in expanded notation. So I would want my kids to at least say that we have to put it in a place value chart so we can find out what place value the digits are in. And I would also be very careful of the vocabulary that I use, because I really want my kids to understand math vocabulary. And instead of saying just numbers, I want them to say digits. So again, we would start from left to right, and the first digit would be 8. And it is in the 100 millions place. 3 is in the 10 millions. 6 is in the 1 millions. Then 5 in the 100,000s. 4 in the 10,000s, 7 in the thousands, so forth and so on. Then I have 2 in the 10th place, and it's just reiterating the model that I had in the previous slide, which would be me showing them and explaining to them. And they would need to write it in expanded notation using decimal notation and fraction notation. And the only things that are going to change is the 1/10 and the 100th, because you can write them in 2 ways. Then they would answer this question: what is the value of the digit 7? Well, what place value is the 7 in? We've already put it in a place value chart. We find 7, and 7 is here in the thousands place, so the value is 7,000. And then here we have in the number 836,547,219 and 25 hundredths. The digit 3 is in which place? Well, we will already have it in a place value chart, so all I have to do is find 3, and I see that it is in the 10 millionth place. Phase 4 is guided practice. Students will be working on their own, and I will be monitoring and providing feedback and making sure that they are learning the task. So the problem that they will be working on is this. This number is written on the board, 375 and 94 hundredths. And you are to find the value of the digit 4 in this number. And guys, I apologize if you hear my 3-year-old in the background. So you will have to do this on your own. In independent practice, students are independent. They're working on the concept on their own. And I can do this in 2 different ways. I can send a homework assignment home, and it would be them practicing expanded notation in both fraction and decimal notation. Or the following morning, you will have a do now, which will look like this. A little bit cut off. but it's basically look at the money represented below. What is this amount of money, and what is the value of the digit in the 10th place? So you will need to add up all the money and find the digit that is in the 10th place, and then record your answer in numerals and in expanded notation. As an evaluation, I will provide my students. You will each get a bag of coins and a stack of play money, such as $1 bills, $5 bills, or $10 bills. And I also have these manipulatives. They're just not available to me right now. And I will ask you to select 4 random coins from a bag and 1 bill from the stack. Each student will use the money amounts to express a decimal and represent its value by shading on a hundredths grid paper, which I will provide. And you will express the decimal using expanded notation and numerals on note cards, which I will also provide. Also, I will want you to identify the value of the digits in your number. So it's kind of just a brief overview of how I would do this model in this lesson. So thank you guys.